Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of the DJ Dewa Show. Thank you all for being the most patient people on the planet, for continually waiting on new episodes and new material. This episode does not mark the comeback of a lot of episodes. It just simply marks that I've finally had some time in my life. Since the last time that I recorded, I have started a new full-time job, which I'm absolutely loving. It's a great opportunity that I've managed to find myself with. But of course, with full-time work, also comes the lack of time and opportunities to do things like this. So that is why it's 10:45 p.m. on a Saturday, and this is literally the only time I have to record. So I know that my Facebook cover has had F Society for a very long time now, and I probably should have changed that just to kind of take off the promise. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to mash all those three topics into this episode. I think I'm just going to keep interchanging them, right, and trying to just mash it up into things. So essentially, you are getting 3 episodes in this episode. Right, so you're going to get the gender equality one, you're going to get the worst way a man can cheat on a woman one, and you're going to get the this is why you're single one, all mashed up in one. And then after this, I'm going to record another episode that I am really excited about. I've been talking to my favorite person to sponge off of when it comes to these sort of conversations. And so I've learned a new and remarkable way of asking people out or starting relationships. So that's going to be the episode that comes after this. In fact, I'm probably more excited to record that one than this one, but it is what it is. So with this particular one, let me just quickly explain what the F Society thing was about. F Society, as I was explaining in previous episodes, was simply a notion or a mantra about identifying that society has torn itself into several pieces, has pulled itself into several directions, has taken up thousands of agendas, so much so that it's left the way we look at the world as not a black and white place, but just a rainbow of sometimes confusion. And when you're looking at things from several perspectives, it has the inherent consequence of damaging certain things. And one of those things, in my opinion, has been relationships. The reason why we are now seeing relationships last much shorter than before, the reason why you're seeing a reluctance of people to get into relationships, the reason why you're seeing a lot of skepticism around things like marriage and the idea of a long-term commitment is because society has done a great deal in confusing us in being able to do things properly. And so the reason why I was saying F Society is that if you want to be able to have a long-term happy relationship, you're going to have to forego the way society thinks and just get back to basics. The other day I had a conversation that absolutely broke my heart. As you know, the DJ Dewa Show is based on real conversations. And I was talking to a good friend of mine who was saying to me that, the sad thing about the world today is a side piece in a relationship probably has a better experience than a wife. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And she said, well, the wife kind of gets the, hurry up, babe, I'm late for the airport. Can you help me pack my bag? I gotta go. Whereas the side piece gets the, can you meet me at the airport because, I want to spend some time with you and, move on and so on and so forth. I'm going to explain why that happens with the help of my good friend Patrice O'Neill a little bit later. But it's so sad the way people are now so normalized with dysfunction, how people have just accepted nonsense and called it real. It absolutely breaks my heart how many of my female relatives and friends are so mentally prepared for infidelity. It is absolutely bananas why anyone would want to live in a world where you need to mentally prepare yourself for dysfunction. It's crazy, and I blame society, and that is where the F Society thing came from, because it's really a problem that we have that we need to resolve by understanding that we need to block it out. Didn't play my beats. Here we go. We need to block it out and just, get back to basics. And the first thing that we need to understand is how to navigate this complex and difficult situation that is called gender equality. Now, the problem with gender equality in relationships is that a lot of the times people mesh the conversation of gender equality from other places and put it into relationships, and it just doesn't fit that well. And what I mean by that is there's pretty much three spheres in which the idea of gender equality work, but within those spheres, two of them have overlapping communication, and one of them has its own way of communicating. And when you then try and mesh all three together, you now get the disaster that society is dishing out in big spoonfuls. What are those three spheres? Those three spheres are, of course, the political, the economic, and social spheres, right? The political and economic have a very overlapping thing because representation in government and the governance and direction of a country or state is something that requires the equal input of men and women so that both genders have the equal representation and both genders have issues that pertain to them well represented, well fought for, and well, managed by those who run our fair countries. And then in the economic place, we're talking about equal pay, we're talking about, equal distribution of income and wealth. We're talking about gender equity, which allows for women to be able to jumpstart their equality by being given, added advantages so that they can catch up to the advantages that men have had for several years. We're talking about certain programs that fall in line with that is when you have quotas on boards for women to be able to have that quick start into representation on boards. When you start having economic grants that are provided for women so that they're able to start businesses, because men have been able to start businesses very easy for a very long time. So that sort of conversation, right, has no business in the way a man and a woman, right, must be together in order to make a relationship work. And the problems that you have when you try and put those two conversations into the third place is that it has now taught us to abandon the gender roles that we were assigned and the ones that we naturally respond to. I'll explain what those gender roles are after I give you this example. You see, the political and economic conversation of gender equality falls in a lot of numbers and percentages. 50-50 this, 30-70 this, 60-40 that, 51-49. It has a lot of, numbers, maths, percentages, right? But then when we now come into the social, the way a man and a woman operate in a relationship, we've heard a lot of 50-50, 60-40, and what you find is that when you try and break it down as a percentage, a lot of the times it just gets confusing, it just doesn't work. And how a great place for you to observe this is when a man and a woman go out on a date in 2017, right? So when you've now been caught up in the hoopla of all this, hey, men and women are equal, it's 50-50, this is how it's supposed to see the world nowadays. Don't be a man of 40,000 years ago. Don't be a woman of 40,000 years ago. Be a man and woman of today, 50-50, right? And then the bill comes, and typically you will see one of three situations. The first situation you will see is the guy will reach for the check and he'll pay for it. The second situation you'll see is the woman actively ignoring the bill. So she might reach into her bag, or she might just, play on her phone or something, because she naturally expects the guy to pay for the bill. And then the third scenario you get is when there's a conversation about going Dutch, right? But you will never find a situation where a woman goes into a date regardless of the circumstances where she is fully expected to pay for the whole date, which is why women always find it so, oh my gosh, this guy's such a jerk when she has to pay for the whole date. And men get so offended by that, but like, oh, so we're supposed to pay for the whole date, but it's okay for you not to do the same. What happened to gender equality? And this scenario communicates why it's difficult to have those political and economic conversations when it comes into the social. Because when it comes to the social, we should really use the gender roles we were assigned and the gender roles we naturally respond to in order to determine how we relate and move with each other along in a daily basis. And what does that mean? What are these amazing roles that we are finally being assigned, and what not? Those roles are, and this is going to sound very funny, but bear with me and listen to me while I'm explaining myself. Those roles are, of course, a man's role is to provide security, and a woman's role is to nurture a man's ego. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. I wasn't laughing at that. I'm being dead serious. A man's role is to provide security, and a woman's role is to nurture a man's nurture a man's ego. And the reason why is because of what we naturally respond to as men and women. A woman naturally responds to a guy who can take charge, a guy who can show that he's able to provide security. Security is incredibly attractive, which is why someone like Rick Ross, who is not aesthetically pleasing to the eye, might be able to get the most fantastic, most beautiful woman in the world. It's not because he's attractive aesthetically, but it's because he has the security that a lot of women crave. That is why you will always get a negative stereotype in a woman of a gold digger, but you'll never find a gold digger man. The reason why you'll never find a gold digger man is because men are not attractive to security. So when it comes to paying the bill, now we're getting back to this analogy of the dinner table. The reason why a woman, even if she is a card-carrying feminist, right, who insists on being seen as an independent woman who is not going to be held or defined by any man, even if she is a card-carrying feminist, she will still expect a man to be able to pay. Even if she pays for the check, she would feel more comfortable paying for the check knowing that if she didn't have a wallet, you would be able to do it. And the reason why is regardless of how society has tried to fool us into saying that men and women are the same, when it comes to relationships, we are not the same. And that doesn't mean, that is not a percentage conversation. That is a conversation on the way we are wired. And the reason why to this day one of the most popular relationship books in the world was still Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, which goes into a very, very deep and very, very exciting and clear way of explaining the different way women and men are wired. A man is not attracted to security, which is why women who are successful find it very hard to get into relationships, because a lot of men don't really want to go into that situation. It's not necessarily an issue of intimidation, which is how a lot of successful women misinterpret that situation. It's because security is not sexy to a man. It's not, right? And so what is sexy to a man is respect, right? Which is where that nurturing of a man's ego thing comes from. Because to nurture a man's ego simply means to respect him, to show him that respect that he is the man of the house. And I'm going to move into the, the worst way a man can cheat on a woman conversation right now. This is the intro into that part, right? But let me first settle this, this gender role thing very clearly. Right? A man naturally responds to that respect, and a woman naturally responds to that love and security. I still need to know that even if I make more money than you, I still need to know that you're in control, that you can take charge, that you can say, babe, this is what we're doing, and let's go. And you have the interest of the household in your heart, and that you have the interest of us to going forward, and that you have the interest of the kids moving forward. And a man, right, is attracted to a woman who makes him feel like, you are the guy I rely on to do all these things.